Tonight, in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, we see how the Anglophone crisis affected the May 20th celebration in Manjo Division, littoral region of Cameroon. Manjo is now home to dozens of displaced English-speaking Cameroonians. We tell you in this newscast how some of them are blaming government officials for fanning the ongoing situation. Also ahead, the President of the Republic of Cameroon has been told to use his leadership and seek lasting solutions to the current socio-political crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. It is one of the fallouts of the meeting between the President of the Republic and the U.S. Ambassador to Cameroon. How are opposition leaders reacting following the meeting between President Paul Biya and Peter Balarang, a supporter of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, is our guest tonight. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you back from the weekend. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. As the Anglophone crisis deepens, many inhabitants of the southwest region of the country are now fleeing violence and seeking refuge in Manjo. Manjo is a locality in Manjo Division of the littoral region of Cameroon. Speaking to Equinoxe Television shortly after the May 20th National Day celebration in that part of the country, inhabitants of Manjo blamed some government officials for giving false information to the President of the Republic. Babila Jonathan compiled this report.
The massive turnout at the Manjo ceremonial ground during the May 20 National Unity Day celebration speaks volumes of the increasing population of the subdivision and other parts of the Manjo division as a result of the influx of people fleeing violence in the crisis-stricken southwest region of Cameroon. We noticed that the population of Manjo has greatly increased. While the head of state is seeking a quick solution to the Anglophone crisis, we have continued receiving people seeking refuge. Speaking to Equinoxe Television, some inhabitants of Manjo blamed the deepening Anglophone crisis on some government officials who are accused of deceiving the head of state concerning happenings in the northwest and southwest regions. Everybody agrees that there should be dialogue. Many civil servants give false information to the head of state. This problem is very easy to solve. People have to come together to find a solution because there is a deep crisis. What is happening in the Anglophone areas is also happening here, but we don't have the courage to speak out. The division officer for Manjo, pupils, students, militants of political parties, members of associations, all preached the gospel of unity and peace. Without national unity, there will be no Cameroon. So we have to come together and preserve the heritage handed down to us by our forefathers.
Unity is the best prize for one people. It's the best prize for everybody. So when we are united, we can build our country more than the great United States.
The National Unity Day celebration in Manjo was also marked by a thrilling show of Cameroon's rich cultural heritage.
Still in the Manjo Division, littoral region of Cameroon, we talk about the situation in Loum, where celebrations were interrupted for several hours following allegations that the Anglophone activists were going to disrupt the event in Loum of the Manjo Division of Cameroon. After the rumor was debunked, the ceremony unfolded normally, as Simanjikan Gabriel tells us in this report.
Panic grips the ceremonial grounds in Loum on May 20. The population that turned out for the National Day celebration ran into different directions after they saw the military heading for reinforcement in Tombel, thinking it was the pro-independence forces who were heading for Loum. After the incident which perturbed the 46th National Day celebrations, Activities resumed normally under the auspices of the divisional officer, Zoa Pascal. Awards of medals to meritorious workers and the march past of the defense forces. Primary schools and political parties still the show, with the Cameroon Renaissance Movement of Maurice Kamto marching with their hands on their heads and the SDF with peace plans. An SDF partisan says unity doesn't exist in the country.
It's very strong to talk today, say unity day for Cameroon. I said that we make the march pass, we come only to fight, say unity turn back. I think people say that unity be again like for last time, if I say problem for Northwest and Southwest be solved.
The divisional officer calls for peace.
Nous devons tout faire pour rester unis.
We have to do everything to be united for Cameroon to move ahead. We are passing through a difficult period. Minutes ago, we had a small fright. Fortunately, everything is moving on well as it began. Apart from the Tombel fear factor, the event in Loum went on history.
And in Mundemba, chief town of Ndiang Division, southwest region of Cameroon, peace was the watchword. The turnout was, however, timid, as Derek Jato tells us in this report.
Piracy, especially in the Bakassi area, was at the verge of being defeated. The Indian people say another nightmare is born. The security threat and destruction, which are products of the Anglophone crisis, are now living with them. It is 23rd May in Mundemba, the divisional headquarters, and the people have come out for the celebration of the National Day, and with them, messages of peace buried in their songs.
We pray for peace and love to reign in our land, for Cameroon is blessing, natural resources.
Even when Mr. Fowan Lawrence, the senior divisional officer from Jan Division, stepped up to the dancers, he was given another peace message, this time by handing him a peace plan.
I always say, and I want to repeat it here, that Cameroon has one national day, and that national day is the 20th of May. 20th of May, whereby you find civilians and the military coming out to show their strength, coming out to tell Cameroon that Cameroon is and will remain united and indivisible.
Those who came saw that the 20th May celebration in Mundemba had a award of medals. The march pass that had as participants schools, associations like the prominent Commercial Motorbikes Syndicate, and political parties. And it was on that note that Mr. Fowan Lawrence, the senior divisional officer from Jan Division, gave the ceremony a pass mark.
But from my own observation, it has been a huge success. It has been a huge success. All those who were implicated are there, and I'm sure they did their assignment, and I'm sure the various subcommittee effectively performed what was expected of them. That is the more reason we have this population here.
Coming on the heels of attacks, security was at the center in Mundemba.
They're reporting now in Santa Subdivision, Mizam, northwest region of Cameroon. Not even a single institution, academic institution, took part in the parade. Only one person was awarded Medal of Excellence, His Royal Highness Forminio Sylvester Fongon II of Matazem. The ceremonial ground was heavily militarized, and the low turnout of civilians could equally be observed No primary, secondary and institutions of higher learning took part in the parade. Opposition parties were equally absent except the ruling CPDM political party. A newly created group called the Santa Peace Force took part in the march past. The CPDM section president in Mezab Santa, Fru Jonathan, explains that the Peace Force is going to be fighting against violence and insecurity within his the subdivision. We are going to be having the excerpts of the divisional officer for Santa subdivision, as well as the section president of the CPDM political party in Santa. They were speaking to Stella in Bamenda.
And I want to thank all those who are here present, all those who participated for the organization of this edition, and who are also present to make this occasion a success. The message of unity, according to what our head of state is, Excellency Kolbia, is waiting from us, to live in peace, so that even if you know the context we are facing now, you should not permit the people to behave like we are in war. We should develop the attitude of peace in our subdivision, so that Santa subdivision should continue to maintain its the good relationship between the population.
Where the people of Santa have come out massively, the youth, the women, the men, have come out to celebrate because it's our National Day. In spite of the crisis, because we are all very worried that we are celebrating in an atmosphere of crisis where some of our brothers are languishing on the hills, are suffering. In fact, we still feel that we have to celebrate because it's our National Day. We've come out massively to say we support peace. And we've made it a special event by coming up with an innovation, which is the Santa Peace Force. The youths of Santa have come out massively and organized themselves in a peace army to defend peace, Santa, to defend any violence, to defend any destruction, any killing in Santa. We want peace to reign. The youth of Santa and the population say they stand behind the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, whose vision they all by whom we adhere to.
And on updates in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon, the Assistant Senior Divisional Officer in Lebialem was picked up several hours before the 20th of May celebration in the country that took place on the 19th of May 2018. His whereabouts up to now remains unknown, and the mayor from Bangem and the second deputy mayor were equally picked up by some yet to be identified individuals as they were finalizing preparations ahead of the 20th of May celebration. Other administrative officials have equally been declared missing. Bangem was boiling in tension in the early hours of this morning following a gun battle between unknown armed individuals and security forces. Several persons are said to have fled from their homes. We shall be telling you more in our subsequent newscast. Now, the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon met with the president of the Republic of the country ahead of the National Day celebration. Amongst the number of issues discussed were the Anglophone crisis and upcoming elections in the country. On the socio-political crisis plaguing Cameroon, Peter Ballerang admitted that the government of Cameroon, or the government forces, have been killing, burning and looting in villages in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. He equally talked about detentions without access to legal support. He mentioned killings, kidnappings by activists. The U.S. ambassador called on both sides to stop violence immediately and urged the head of state to use his leadership and encourage both sides to listen to each other. One cannot dialogue unless both sides are willing to listen. Those were the words of the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon. And on the upcoming election in the country, Peter Ballerang suggested that the head of state should be thinking about his legacy and should emulate the example of George Washington, that is the first president of the United States of America, and the iconic president in Africa, Nelson Mandela. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
We did discuss that, and I will say that, you know, there's violence on both sides. The government has committed summary executions. They are guilty of detaining people and not allowing them access to lawyers, to their families, even to visits from the Red Cross. They have been guilty of burning villages and looting. and general harassment of the population. On the side of the secessionists, the separatists, we've seen horrible beheadings, kidnappings of government officials, and burning of schools. We want to stress that the United States condemns violence on both sides. We condemn violence, and we want to call for people to listen to each other. Right now, in Cameroon, there's a sort of a dialogue of the deaf. People are stating their positions, the government is stating its position, and the separatists and the people of the Northwest and Southwest who don't support the government are stating their positions, but they're not listening to each other. So I asked the President to use his position as leader of the country to...
And a family in Loum, Mongo division of Cameroon is now stranded after the apartment house went into flames in the early hours of this morning, and the most material damage was recorded. And up to now, the cause of the inferno is unknown. Details in this report. With buckets and empty containers in hand, surrounding residents went in search of water to put out the fire that broke out in this apartment house at the Sumange roundabout in Loum, Mongo division of the littoral region of Cameroon. The people had to fight the white flames on their own due to the absence of a firefighting brigade in the area. The fire disaster, as one of the occupants of the house explains, broke out at 8 a.m. when some of them were still asleep. Mattresses, beds, household items and other valuables were reduced to ashes, he added. The exact cause of the fire disaster is unknown. Victims of the incident, who are still in shock, now wonder how to pick up the broken pieces. And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Time for us to meet our guest. We shall be right back. Once again, good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to join us in this second segment of the news. We are going to be having as guest the first Vice President of the Women's Wing of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Ms. Michèle NDOKI. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would begin right away with the May 20th celebration. We have been talking about the action that was undertaken by the Cameroon Renaissance Movement across the national territory.
Yes.
You were, of course, in Yaoundé yesterday, and possibly some of your party supporters or comrades took part in the parade at the May 20th Boulevard. We saw how they were marching with their hands on their heads. Was it a planned move, or it was just spontaneous?
It was a planned move, and it was a decision taken among us because we wanted to tell our compatriots in the northern province, in the far north province, in Adamawa, in the northwest, southwest provinces, and in the east province, that we were having them in our hearts. And we wanted to express that it was important for us to participate in the march past, because it is important to us as Cameroonians what we are commemorating and celebrating on that day, and particularly the fact that we are Cameroonian and that we own this country and we are proud of being Cameroonians. But at the same time, we could not ignore the fact that something very, very grave and serious and heartbreaking is happening in our country at the moment. So this was our way of expressing that we did have all those people, our fellow compatriots,
in your hearts. The reason why I was actually asking whether it was a planned move was if those who are the organizing committees of the May 20th celebration if they were aware
that
the Cameroon Renaissance movement was going to do that? Do you think it was going to be possible for you to do that?
I don't think so.
Because we equally saw the action of the Social Democratic Front.
Exactly.
Others actually paraded half naked.
Yes, and I'm sure just like our decision, their own was not disclosed, because otherwise, of course, it has so many things were done across the country just for people not to see what we Cameroonians are expressing. As members of CRM, as members of other parties, telephones were confiscated, people were sent away from the parade. I was in Douala, and in Douala only, I think at least 200 people were sent away because they were not allowed to take pictures in a public arena where we knew this was broadcasted on television. You would struggle to understand why we would be prevented from
and especially on the National Unity Day.
And especially on the National Unity Day. And we have one of our comrades who was arrested because he had a drone and he was taking pictures because he was happy to see so many Cameroonians gathered in a place to celebrate our nation. So, of course, in that case, if we had told on top of that to the organizers that we were going to express our solidarity towards our compatriots in the northwest and southwest and in the other regions of Cameroon, it would have been impossible to participate to this. So, I want to seize that opportunity to thank our comrades and our compatriots around the country who decided to show a sign of solidarity and ownership of what is happening in our country today. And especially, I have a special thought for those of the CRM who marched in Bamenda, because you can imagine it was a challenge at that time. We've just heard what was happening in those regions on the 20th of May. So it was a very brave sign of solidarity and of sense of the unity. And we would love to see that coming from the government. Unfortunately, we are still not there.
Many people might be asking or could be curious that what is the impact of such a move from the CRM and other opposition political parties?
I think
what could possibly be the impact?
I think we tend to forget that the main people we are talking to when we are members of a political party are the people, the Cameroonian, those behind that screen, those the current government doesn't care about. We're not talking mainly to the government. Of course, we have a different view on how this country should be run. But we are not saying that to the government. We are saying that to our people. That is saying that in this kind of occasion, we have the opportunity to remind our people that there is an alternative. There's another way to shape the destiny of this country, and we represent that alternative. So we need to show them how strong we are, young we are, how determined we are, and how enthusiastic we are to bring about that vision of the Cameroon that we should have and that we deserve.
We saw how it took place, like you said, in a chaotic atmosphere. The atmosphere was rather tense in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. What would be your evaluation of how the events unfolded between yesterday and the early hours of this morning that we've been hearing of gunshots and the country celebrating national unity in the midst of gunshots, brutality and fightings? What do you have to say about that?
I do understand why some of the parties like CPP decided not to take part in that, because it was showing care for our comrades or our compatriots who are dying at the moment in southwest and northwest in particular. At the same time, I think what we need, those of us who are still there, those of us who are still alive, or those of us who still hope in the future, we need to have those signs of hope. We need to have those signs of belief, strong belief in the fact that we can get over this. This is a very difficult time, and it is for a mother like me and for a Cameroonian and for a leader, it is heartbreaking to see people dying, people being tortured, houses being burnt down, people who can't just go farming, because apart from that, we will continue to have the impact of this crisis and this war that we are in for months and maybe years, because it is not only those who are dying, it's also those who are behind. We are facing very difficult time, and it is heartbreaking to see that. But see, if we focus on what is not going on, well, then we will not create the possibility for that to come to an end. We started as a party with women of a CRM, a movement, and laid a hand to other women in other parties, because we want to create a group of women coming from all over this country and go to talk to our current president to tell him that he has to put an end to this. And I really hope, and it is part of this.
We have seen that move from the CPP that you just mentioned a few minutes ago.
Exactly, we've seen that happening.
Don't you think that if the women wing of other opposition political parties could come together under a single thinking cap, the impact could be more
tremendous.
than could
yes.
be tremendous.
I don't even only think. We are doing it. We are starting the conversation. We are having the right, and I think we need to speed up a bit, of course. But I am certain that we have an instrumental role to play in the, as I said earlier, shaping of the destiny of this country and resolving this crisis in particular. And I've met with people from FSNC, from CPDM, Mrs. Marlise Tongo-Douala-Bell notably, who are open to that idea, and we are very optimistic. We need to put that to action, and we need to raise our voices, because after all, we are the one burning those kids.
It should be the interest of Cameroonians and not from which political party you are
by
coming
all
from.
means, by all means. It has to remain what it is. It is a human story, and we have kids that are being killed. We are the one giving birth to those kids, and we are the one to say we don't have any other kids to send to war for nothing again.
We have seen at the level of the National Assembly where opposition women are coming up with initiatives, but not really welcomed by women, MPs of the governing CPDM political party. What makes you think that carrying out such an initiative with other supporters of the CPDM, I mean women, it can work?
Because we think it is not about the parties. It is about our country.
Maybe your
and I think as women, yes.
Maybe you can use a different strategy to convince
this time
the
would be to come from various parties to in a women-to-women conversation. And I think this time it will work. It has to work.
Many are expecting positive results from that. Now we are going to be talking about the declarations of the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, Peter Ballerang, after meeting the President of the Republic a few days to the 20th of May celebration. He was talking about the President of the Republic to use his leadership and bring lasting solutions to the current socio-political crisis in Cameroon. What do you have to say about those declarations from the diplomat?
Oh, this is only what we as CRM have been saying for years now, and we do hope that now that it's coming from the American ambassador and in other words the American government, it will be the current President of the Republic will lend an attentive ear and move that to the next stage, because it's not just about having various conversations, it's mainly about actioning it. We believe that we have to remain in the conversation, and this has to remain a Cameroon conversation. We've heard a lot of people saying, why should they give us, tell us what to do with our own affairs? And after all, do they have a president of the republic they are proud of, and they have their own issues? If we have to wait until we're perfect before we are allowed to give advices, then the word of advice will be deleted from the vocabulary. We believe it's not so much about who is saying, it's about the content of the advice and how
it is perceived.
Much we believe it is grounded, first of all. Do we really believe? And we've had to talk about that. We know that the current perception is that we're not happy with the current government, and we're not confident in the ability of the current president of the republic to drive our country to the right destination. So it is only normal that he is asked by a neutral party, an external party, to think about handover, of course. Yeah. Now, what are we going to do with that? It's not, this time, it's not to us. He was talking, it is the current president's duty to tell what he's going to do with that. We are waiting for the next election, and we are getting ready for that, and we are asking our compatriots to get ready for that, because they have the say, they have the final say, and this is, I think, where we are going to...
You've talked about a neutral party, which is not the first. The United Nations has been talking,
yes, Commonwealth
has been talking,
yes.
And many other actors within and out of the national territory have been giving their own solutions to the current socio-political crisis. Do you think that the government could be able to listen to some of these recommendations or advices, like you said, and seek solutions to the crisis?
We have to remain hopeful that they can. To be true to you, we are not seeing real signs that the government will listen. What we are getting back from the government is more and more repression. Remember that General Melingi, who was in charge of the army in Southwest, was recently replaced by one of his colonels. So, and we've not had explanation as to why. But this is telling you, and the appointment of Mr. Tangaji, all those signs are telling you that we're not in the listening phase of this, of the unfolding of the government strategy to resolve the crisis. And it is sad. But once you've said that, you have to ask yourself, then what happens? What should we do? And this is where we are calling on to our fellow compatriots. We have to take that issue at hand, and we have to resolve it.
And you think the solution is in the ballot box?
Yes, we think that is where the solution is.
But
we've seen other people saying the solution is in civil unrest. And we've seen what happened. They said that solution was in weapons, and we've seen that what
But how would
happened.
an election take place in the current state of affairs?
That is a very good question, and that's the reason why
hundreds of thousands are in neighboring Nigeria as refugees, others are in bushes. They are not even feeling secure in their country.
Yes.
How do you think an election can take place?
It is a great challenge, and that is the reason why, as I was saying, the first stage is to get the President of the Republic to understand that he needs to order the ceasefire. He needs to get military back to their back away from the field, and allow the people to go back home. Once that's done, and we are working towards getting that to be done.
And free those arrested
yes,
as well.
Of course. This is another great area of concern. He has said before that they needed to be released. We don't understand why some will be released and some not. So he has to walk the talk, and then we will create the conditions for elections, and we will win during those elections.
Hopefully that this may be able to happen before the election take place.
Yes,
thank
we have
you so
to remain
much.
Focused on that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Michèle NDOKI, for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you, my pleasure.
We hope to have you some other time again.
With pleasure.
Thank you to our viewers as well for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.